Chapter 49, Dragon Phoenix Gathering. Zhong Yunshin stared blankly at the Huangbo family's young master before turning his head. Huangbo Myongrin's reaction with her nape's clothes gripped in his right hand was amusing. At first she seemed bewildered, as if experiencing something impossible in life. Perhaps because Zhong Yunshin lifted her without killing intent. Her realization was late. "You, trash." Soon energy waves spread from Huangbo Myongrin's right hand. Though inferior to the fallen guy, she had learned famous martial arts. She was a famous family's martial artist. It could be felt from her refined energy. While Zhong family dynamic techniques true energy circled his whole body. Zhong Yunshin struck immediately. Thud! White powder stained the hand that hit Huangbo Myongrin's face. He paid no mind. He struck once more, twice more, thrice more. At this moment he was properly imitating a between righteous and evil martial artist. Hup! Internal energy technique was imbued in his hand that brushed her gasp. Due to containing minute true energy, her skull must have been shaken. Huangbo Myongrin seemed unable to come to her senses. Her expression was as if unable to believe what she was experiencing. The energy waves gathered in her hands instantly disappeared. Oh my! The Huangbo family young master intervened. He wore a drunken smile. It's already troublesome. Thinking of the family elders. His extending hand while speaking was strange. He aimed for Zhong Yunshin's arm gripping Huangbo Myongrin's nape. Like one who learned drunken fist, it was hard to distinguish between feints and real moves. It was what he waited for. Zhong Yunshin raised fate-defying scripture true energy layering in his right arm's fine meridians. He lightly shook his hand and Huangbo Myongrin's body sprawled backward, meeting the young master's strike with her shame-mixed groan behind. Puck puck! Hand shadows tangled. The power contained in the young master's arms was very heavy and hot. It seemed impossible how he could be fine while containing such scorching young internal energy in his blood vessels. Supreme rising martial arts. Zhong Yunshin raised another stream of true energy. He immediately surrounded his arm with an invisible membrane. It was an internal energy barrier called protective energy. With repeated achievement it becomes the famous protective diamond energy. The heat touching his skin became slightly fainter. Pack! The situation changed. As they tried to grab each other's wrists, the golden silk hands' moves were tremendously complex. During the manhua sect's Great Violet Pill mission, Zhong Yunshin had absorbed and developed Thieving Ghost's techniques. The opponent's techniques were outstanding enough to cause problems. They were moves overflowing with wit. It felt like exchanging moves with himself having gained a bit more experience. My goodness! The young master wearing a light smile opened his mouth. Different colors dwelled in his eyes. Below his shadowed eyes seemed to show small vitality. There was another guy like me. He shows leisure to even open his mouth. His power and experience were different. Zhong Yunshin gradually got pushed back in strength. The internal energy gathered in the young master's striking hands grew endlessly stronger. Puck! Powerful rotating force waves burst. Zhong Yunshin's hair that had come down to his shoulders scattered backward. Unable to just be swept along, he had just burst rotational strike of Eternal Blossom Fist with his palm. The returning rebound force was big. Zhong Yunshin naturally stepped back once. Attending the Dragon Phoenix Gathering? Gu Gua of the Chasing Truth sect. I'll remember. You be quite worth watching as years accumulate. If you train more, that is. The young master smiled standing diagonally with one leg planted in place, without being pushed back even one step. He was very strong. I won't be able to see, because a grave to cool my body awaits. It's already made big, so I just need to go lie my body down. His speech and behavior were very free-spirited. It made one wonder if he was really the young master of a martial noble family acting like royalty. His tone was different from Huangbo Myongrin, who said she would remember the name too. His attitude was like facing interesting entertainment. Forgive my younger brother and sister moderately. In about 10 years they won't even be able to face you. They'll have to look up quite a bit, since they earn their own beatings. Let's meet again later. He turns away and trudges off while chewing opium poppy. He seemed not to mind anymore even though his siblings got beaten like that. His conduct appeared free of attachment to worldly matters. He didn't seem like a family heir at all. Seems like he should be in Desolate Sect. Why didn't he aim for the World Tree's fruit if he's like that? Zhong Yunshin stood quietly, feeling Haiyan Wenchang's hand on his shoulder. He was reviewing the young master's techniques. The gathered onlookers dispersed while expressing their various impressions. There seemed to be no one bold enough to speak to Zhong Yunshin, who had made enemies with the Huangbo family. It was because of Huangbo Myongrin's face glaring at Zhong Yunshin as she left. Frost-like resentment was gathered there. She was Zhong Yunshin's second arrangement. If the young master didn't act rashly, Huangbo Myongrin would help complete the mission. Zhong Yunshin's interest returned to martial arts. So senses can be used like that. I should recognize when there's no need to be trapped in moves. He advanced one step even at this moment. He became stronger than just before. Sir Ji Yu. Haiyan Wenchang thrust his face from the side. The title changed because it was a crowded place. Are you all right? I was about to step in, but you looked strangely happy. You're also most skilled at provocation. You saw right. I don't understand the latter part at all. Anyway, seems like a formidable fellow. The Huangbo family young master. There are many rumors about him being a rogue playing above the clouds. His martial power and nature seem just like the rumors. I find it more fascinating that Brother Ji Yu was pushed back just one step. Shin Sobin cut in. She flipped her tied hair, revealing her sweating nape. The Huangbo family young master's title is Lazy Flame Dragon. He's counted among the strongest talents north of the Yangtze. He conquered the Dragon Phoenix Gathering at 20 and 5 more years have passed. Even White Chelin Namgung Wasin, who was the previous conqueror, is said to look down on him. He's arrogant enough to say he watched a good performance. He lived 5 more years after 20. I know brother is the same age as me. Aren't there only 4 years left until coming of age at 20? There's a 9-year difference with Lazy Flame Dragon. Right. 4 years left. Zhong Yunshin replied with a calm expression. He had been enjoying martial arts achievement. His stomach became uncomfortable. Didn't Brother Ji Yu say the sect leader passed down martial arts to him? Not knowing his inner thoughts, Shin Sobin chattered. Power must be what you lack most now, but with the sect leader's internal energy techniques you should be able to store energy quickly. It's a peerless divine technique counted among the best in the world. They say even royal family members who sweep up all miraculous medicines under heaven only learn that. In 5 years wouldn't your power match Lazy Flame Dragon? As much as 5 years. Zhong Yunshin shook his head and muttered. Indeed, creating mind techniques with dramatically fast energy storage speed was urgent. Separately from that, there was a discrepancy in Shin Sobin's words. It's not so hard to approach. If you're just strong enough not to be swept away by small gestures, you can face great power with advanced moves. They say the Taiji sword of the Wudang sect below Desolate Sect is such martial arts too. Ordinary won't do, right? The moves would have to be tremendously outstanding. Not that brother is lacking. Shin Sobin, who entered as a junior, had a bold side. While acknowledging Zhong Yunshin, she maintained her pride as a precious daughter of a famous family. Zhong Yunshin didn't mind much. She follows orders well too. That was enough. Useless pride would change on its own after going through several bloody battles. Let's go. Zhong Yunshin, who gathered the travel pack left under the tree, mounted his horse. Right below the Huangbo family's Shandong province, Huju, where the Namgang family said to be supervising this Dragon Phoenix Gathering, was before their eyes. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. The vitality is strange. Haiyan Wenchang said. Huju was a very wealthy city. They said there were many merchant groups as enormous goods came and went. Indeed, the roads within the city were paved extremely smoothly. People doing business and bargaining were noisy everywhere. However, the expressions of passing people weren't all good. Haiyan Wenchang, who dismounted his horse, shook his head. Is there poor harvest here too? Huizhou's tea leaves are very famous, but it won't be easy to taste them. They said lands with particularly bad harvests have increased lately. They say various parts of the Central Plains are like that. I wonder what will happen to the world. Zhong Yunshin let Haiyan Wenchang and Shin Sobin's words pass. It was because he was absorbed in martial arts even while heading to the Namgang family. They called it image training, the process of researching moves, techniques and gaining insights mentally. Zhong Yunshin's training efficiency didn't drop even while meditating while walking. From the moment he entered Desolate Sect, his life itself was composed of martial arts. We've arrived. Indeed it's big. Hyeon Wonchang standing before the Namgung family's main gate marveled. Strange bitterness was also felt in his tone. The Namgung family's pavilion complex was pure and massive, befitting their fame. Though not comparable to desolate sect, looking at it as a family, it must be rare prestige under heaven. Welcome. Have you come for the Dragon Phoenix gathering? Even the gate guard martial artist's conduct and behavior were restrained. Jong Yunshin nodded and clasped his fists. I am Jiu Gua of the Chasing Truth sect. Confirmed. The warrior who received the paper Jong Yunshin held out nodded. He seemed to have memorized the list. The warrior wearing blue martial clothes opened his mouth. Though regrettable, this Dragon Phoenix gathering is not being held within the family compound. As there is a major matter in the main house and the location has moved, please understand. Then where? There is a pavilion called Lotus Pavilion north of Huiju. I will call someone to guide you. The signs were strange. Their attitude seemed not to consider the Dragon Phoenix gathering important. What had happened inside the Namgung family? For a moment Jong Yunshin received a strange feeling. It was a sensation spreading from his head. The energy unique to the 13 heavens felt when facing the Tyrant Sword sect and Blood Flame sect approached. It was rough and ominous. It was the realm of upper Dantian foresight and intuition that had been suddenly coming frequently lately. Were they attacked by the 13 heavens? His heightened senses gave rise to one inference. Jong Yunshin followed behind the guide without showing it. He also roughly let pass Shin So Bin's words as she whispered, sticking close beside. They had to walk quite long. It seemed it would have been far even riding horses. The Dragon Phoenix gathering's mishap that the supervising sect had to take responsibility for seemed a secondary issue. Rather, it felt like they were more reluctant to reveal their family's interior. You can stay at any nearby inn under the Namgung family's name. May you make good connections. The guide who showed conduct unique to famous families' unique refined behavior moved away. No one saw them off. The group had to immediately turn their heads. Because such powerful energies were surging. Boom! Waves rose from the lakeside. White foam fell again, wearing sunlight. Under the huge pavilion luxuriously built above the water, a handsome young Taoist priest and the Huangbo family's lazy flame dragon were clashing swords. The youth side was familiar. Just seeing the plum blossom pattern showed it was the manhua sect. There were many men and women watching the sparring both above the pavilion and everywhere. There were people sitting with feet on railings, or standing tall on the pavilion roof. It already looked over 30 people. Though all young, they had master's atmosphere. Rising talents. It was a very unfamiliar sight to Jong Yunshin. Having repeatedly fought bloody battles for missions, it was his first time seeing young and junior disciples from various sects captured in his eyes. Seeing several peers felt strange. They said he's the manhua sect leader's chief disciple. That Taoist Yu Hyeon, his power is truly deep. There's talk he ate the great violet pill. Even so, doesn't it seem dangerous? Lazy flame dragon's eyes are crazed. Finally drawing his sword and... Despite the age difference. Does he not know shame? Family young masters, Taoists, and monks too. Those who seemed relatively older wore serious expressions. Jong Yunshin could understand immediately. Perhaps due to power emitting tremendous heat, lazy flame dragon's eyes chewing opium poppy were bloodshot. It was completely different from when facing Jong Yunshin. Madness was felt in the smile at his mouth corners. An appearance that had thrown away everything, family, face, all of it. Lecturing me with pathetic talent? What could you accomplish if you were me? How futile! He shouts wildly as if there had been an argument. The true energy waves ringing ears were tremendous. Yu Hyeon's expression, who had received the great violet pill's energy from Jong Yunshin, was crumpled. Even terror dwelled on his face. As Yu Hyeon kept stepping back, blood flowed from between his slashed manhua sect Taoist robes. No one seemed to dare try stopping it. Huangbo Myongrin and her brother were the same. Those who seemed shallow in internal energy shrank each time sword strikes burst. Lazy Flame Dragon's martial power was different level. His moves were truly sensual too. What to do about that? Sir Beck went to call people. Families are clans in the secular world. It was a place with many heirs of single families. They had enough power to drive away adults wanting to enjoy friendship with peers. The unsound Namging family. Young people's deviation suppressed by family. Zhong Yunshin stepped into premature collapse. He hadn't even made introductions and greetings yet. It was when the rising talents widened their eyes as if belatedly recognizing. He was already standing beside Lazy Flame Dragon. Why you again? Still insignificant. Lazy Flame Dragon's madness rose. Killing intent overflowed from eyes sharply turning to glare at Zhong Yunshin. Blazing light nets could be seen. Bang! It was like military artillery fire. Yu Haiyan, who barely blocked his sword strike, was sent flying. Simultaneously, there wasn't a shred of mercy in Lazy Flame Dragon's hand striking toward Zhong Yunshin. Along with tremendous true energy waves, he struck straight down at the head. Crash! It wasn't the sound of force wave collision. Zhong Yunshin's hand made a strange trajectory. While pushing back forearm with forearm, he lowered the wrist down. In an instant, he spread my thumb and fingers wide and wedged the inside of Lazy Flame Dragon's arm joint between them. This works. He gripped simultaneously. True energy layered with fate-defying scripture dwelled in Zhong Yunshin's grasp. He pressed the inner gate point where the arm bent while surrounding it with internal energy. It was acupoint sealing. He completely drained strength. The power remains the same. He surpassed in moves. For a moment Lazy Flame Dragon's expression went blank. What? Their movement stopped. Zhong Yunshin silently looked at him before opening his mouth. You were talking about talent, right? What about yourself, Dot? What? Zhong Yunshin had dug in close to his body. A distance hard to even grapple at. The heat radiating from Lazy Flame Dragon's whole body was felt directly. It wasn't hard to approach. You're a bit duller. Zhong Yunshin whispered. There was no particular emotion in his tone. Chapter 50, Dragon Phoenix Gathering, 2. The blue rank warrior of Desolate Sect subdued the young master of the martial arts family. It was a surprise attack combined with the breaking technique of grappling hold. It was quite possible, given that Zhong Yunshin's perception even surpassed in reading and using prodigious techniques. Who? What's happening now? It seems Lazy Flame Dragon's acupoints have been sealed. Others seem to see it differently. The Dragon Phoenix Gathering is a periodic martial arts banquet. Zhong Yunshin was an emerging master who had never appeared before. Small whispers began to spread gradually. These are techniques I've never seen before. The body technique, grappling hold, acupoint sealing. All of them. The body protection technique was truly mysterious. It was like seeing the venerable elder of this noble lineage. Which sect is he from? How could he to Lazy Flame Dragon? Even if it was just one sudden exchange. The atmosphere that seemed about to explode with Lazy Flame Dragon's madness dissipated like a distortion. It was as if a spring breeze had come to scatter the killing intent. Zhong Yunshin remained silent. He had disabled one of his opponent's arms. It was at an extremely close distance. In a normal martial contest, this would be the end, but with Lazy Flame Dragon, who seemed to have a hint of madness, one couldn't be sure. Eternal Blossom Fist didn't have moves effective at inch distance yet. He prepared by greatly raising true energy. Then Lazy Flame Dragon muttered. I'm more dull. Dull, you say? If you can't even feel that much, that's all there is to it. Zhong Yunshin spoke calmly as he removed his arm. He didn't unseal the acupoints. He left it so that he could subdue any immediate violent outburst. The points will naturally unseal when he circulates his energy. He had often heard stories about masters who could manipulate yin and yang energy. They were said to have distinct strengths. The yang energy could easily disperse others' inner power that entered their body. Seeing it firsthand was interesting. It was worth contemplating. Drawing out the properties of flame through true energy? How was it done? While Zhong Yunshin was lost in thought. You're not even paying attention. What are you even supposed to be? Lazy Flame Dragon's reaction was peculiar. It was a very calm anger. After chewing and swallowing a whole winter cherry, he spoke. Jiu Gua of Chasing Truth Sect. I understood your talent with that one move. Someone like you will surely make a name for yourself for a long time. You'll be talked about for decades even after death. And? He had learned that the ultimate provocation was to mock someone's intimate stories. He had learned this from Chong Mayong before setting out on his mission. So he remained silent to see what Lazy Flame Dragon would say. Do you know the feeling when your feet naturally move toward the abyss? You have everything. Your complexion is excellent. How does it feel to have talent that requires no price? What? It was a statement that even dampened his interest in the essence of flame. It approached him with a sense of utter triviality. It seemed better to engage in close combat with this pressure-pointed fellow instead. Lazy Flame Dragon continued speaking. His fingertips were trembling. I was born with extreme young energy. I grew stronger even without practicing mental techniques. My heightened senses were accompanied by burning pain in my meridians. That's my achievement. It's martial arts I built up trying to change my constitution through lofty inner power training. It's not something you can dismiss as being dull. Perhaps because he acknowledged Zhong Yunshin's talent. He rambled on as if drinking with a close friend. It was almost embarrassing for Zhong Yunshin. While it was welcome for the mission, it felt strange dealing with this type of character for the first time. The shadow under Lazy Flame Dragon's eyes was burdensome. Zhong Yunshin slowly opened his mouth. What am I supposed to do about the fact being like that? I'm not even equipped with martial arts skills impressive enough to overwhelm one's talents. You really? I called what was dull, dull. There's nothing wrong with that. Only you know your pain. No one else can understand it. By the end, Zhong Yunshin ended up talking about himself. He had felt it while carrying out various missions. Martial artists who weren't disciplined practitioners like the disciples of the 9 sects tended to get angry easily. Just stating facts alone was enough to make them that way. Although it was incomprehensible, he thought it would be the same now. Since he was deliberately trying to provoke a strong reaction. The deliberate provocation was a first. It had to work. Only I know. Never heard that before. Everyone said they understood. That manhua sect fellow just now did too. The reaction was strange. Lazy Flame Dragon's lips trembled like a mute speaking for the first time. He was a genius suffering from the strange illness called the Solar Divine Meridian. Understanding his state of mind would be difficult for anyone. Someone who understands the trajectory of my talent doesn't know me. Are you saying my talent, which might lead to an untimely death, is worthless? The elders of my family kept me close because of their nauseating expectations. The intensity in his eyes was fading. As the unique gleam of a master trained in orthodox martial arts returned to his eyes, one could see the madness dispersing from them. His spirit was clear. So much so that he didn't appear drunk from the alcohol and winter cherry. Finally, Lazy Flame Dragon's expression seemed to hold unprecedented goodwill. Zhong Yunshin felt a sense of crisis. He thought of mission failure. If I were you, I would have cut ties with the family and devoted myself to desolate sect. They say the fruit of the world tree cures all ailments. The same would be true for the Solar Divine Meridian. To discuss life without that much effort? It's laughable. Even if you live a few more years, it's already too late. Ha ha. You're worried about me. Were you so concerned about losing someone worthy to discuss martial arts with? I said you were even more dull. It was incomprehensible thinking. He seemed mad from long suffering. The problem was approaching with provocations that would work on ordinary people. I'll have to try again after some time. It was an unexpected obstacle. Zhong Yunshin immediately turned around. Since any provocation seemed useless now, he needed help from Haiyan Wenchang and Shin Sobin, who were watching from afar with strange expressions. I can't cut off Lazy Flame Dragon's limbs in the middle of the Dragon Phoenix gathering. It would surely make him a criminal in the righteous martial arts world. That's why provocation was the goal. Even the chase with the Huangbo family's military force, set as the final mission, would be difficult. Where are you going? Let's drink together. You're good enough. I'll specially serve you aged Shaxing wine. Your worthless talent would spoil the taste of the wine. I don't share tables with insignificant people. Despite the harsh words, he laughs heartily. Completely mad. Zhong Yunshin shook his head inwardly. He turned his gaze to find Yu Haiyan, who had been sprawled out in the distance. He could see him getting up alone. There didn't seem to be any disciples accompanying him from the manhua sect, and he looked terrible. Zhong Yunshin quickly approached and asked, "Where are the elders who accompanied you?" "Ah, long time no see." As you can see, they decided to send everyone out from inside the Dragon Phoenix gathering. saying how could we comfortably socialize with the elders watching. Anyway, thanks. Indeed, Gu Gua. He changes his words as if he had heard lazy flame dragons talk. Yu Haion's eyes moved. He was as sharp as expected. He briefly noticed the desolate sect mark of the rough Wang character covered with different fabric. Zhong Yunshin spoke. You're not angry. Even though I interrupted your martial contest. It should have ended earlier. The levels didn't match. Compared to that, Yu Haion was famous as an unparalleled genius from Shaanxi province. Unusually, his words trailed off. You've become incredibly strong. It feels like you're on a completely different level. I've improved too, but Come to think of it, Yu. He seemed to belatedly notice the color of Zhong Yunshin's martial clothes under his robe. Yu Haion's expression became complicated. That's what the blue of desolate sect meant. It was said to hold as much prestige as the elite of the 9 sects in the world. They were supreme masters under the sect leader and elders. Zhong Yunshin was close enough to be called friends with Yu Haion. He had often heard. As the youngest disciple of the sect leader, he dreamed of becoming the Plum Blossom Sword Master of the manhua sect. The blue rank represented a position equivalent to Yu Haion's goal. His feelings were understandable. We live in different times. Zhong Yunshin swallowed his words. He turned his gaze. He saw people approaching before Haion Wenchang and Shin Sobin. Young men and women with outstanding spirit. They were the later period disciples from the Dragon Phoenix gathering at Lotus Pavilion. Orthodox martial artists gathered in one place. There are master-disciple relationships too. To Zhong Yunshin's eyes, they didn't approach as people. Their faces, unable to hide their curiosity, appeared as new systems of martial arts. In my life, I've never seen anyone speak so harshly to Lazy Flame Dragon. I am Wei Wuling of the Jiangbark sect. I am Yin Liming of the White Blade sect of South Shili. Your prodigious moves were quite creative. Where did you learn it? Chasing Truth sect, is it? If they have a newer generation disciple like you, they'll soon soar. It's been long since a dragon rose from a minor sect, and now another newer generation disciple like Sword Dragon and Lazy Flame Dragon has appeared. They gathered one by one. Perhaps because the opponent had been Lazy Flame Dragon. Though they must have heard Zhong Yunshin's words and actions, they didn't seem to show much aversion. He returned their greetings while fully sensing their spirit. Good. Recently, what Zhong Yunshin wanted to create was internal cultivation. It was the study of accepting energy. The various spirits of the later period disciples revealed through true energy were all inspiration. To increase the speed of energy accumulation in internal cultivation, stability had to be considered together. Orthodox martial arts were indeed a good foundation. Such a mongrel without roots. He liked the sight of Huangbo Myongrin glaring murderously from the side. The later period disciples from renowned martial arts families formed a group around her. None of them approached Zhong Yunshin. Then someone spoke. They say Shaolin, Wudong, and Zhongnan have sent people too. I wonder when they'll arrive. Zhong Yunshin immediately thought of the young monk Gak Zhong and Sword Dragon Wei Ji Miowa. It was the Dragon Phoenix gathering of the righteous martial arts world. It seemed disciples comparable to 3/10 of the Central Plains Orthodox sects were gathering. The scale is growing. It wasn't just the later period disciples. Here in Huiju, the Namgang family had already begun engaging with the 13 heavens. To accomplish this mission's goal, they needed to draw in the Huangbo family too. The 13 heavens who fought the Namgang family couldn't be overlooked either. It was impossible to know how intense the flow would become. Just as Zhong Yunshin was newly honing his vigilance. This place will do. An eerie voice spread. It was an intense resonance. For a moment, an extremely deep internal energy was felt. Thud. Thud. From various places, corpses of warriors in blue martial clothes flew in. They seemed to be Namgang family warriors who had been secretly guarding the surroundings. The newer generation disciples' reaction was immediate. Sheeing. It was the unified sound of swords being drawn from all directions. No one was careless enough to ask about identities first. Each flashing their spirit light, they stared at the uninvited guests. Whenever the Dragon Phoenix gathering is held, the evil sects get involved. It was the same yesterday. When Namgang closes their doors, all sorts of flies stick to it. Isn't it natural since everything is out in the open? Even the main family has so many enemies. Let's end this quickly. Even more casual replies came to the later period disciples' composed reactions. The spy's words were true. Even the Orthodox sect's youngsters. Truly delightful. The reaction is good. Yes. It's common in the martial world. Many approached without footsteps. Blood-red hair mixed with black hair and chilling aura. There seemed to be 20 blood sword masters. They revealed blood-red spirit light as they glared at where Zhong Yunshin stood. They had appeared as soon as he spent time at Lotus Pavilion after entering Huaju. It seemed intentional. Zhong Yunshin had already heard Ma Jin's words. That he would become the primary target for elimination after revealing martial arts that could become the natural enemy of the Blood Flame sect. It was true. He had learned while carrying out multiple missions. They said the Blood Flame sect's power had grown bizarrely large. Such a massive evil sect was mobilizing all its power to kill Zhong Yunshin. As an evil sect whose essence of power lay in techniques, the longer he spent in the martial world, the more easily he would be tracked, they said. It was part of their technique-based martial arts. If the Dragon Phoenix gathering had been held inside the Namgung family compound, this wouldn't have happened. Even Desolate Sect hadn't expected this. Blood Flame Sect. Insane. So many swordmasters, how many branches have gathered? Many let out sighs. Even Zhong Yunshin, who had little experience in the martial world, had encountered them tiringly often. The later period disciples who had roamed the martial world before must feel the same. They appeared to be a terrifying force. Even Huangbo Myongrin's face in the distance had turned pale. Lazy Flame Dragon's expression, whose acupoints hadn't been unsealed yet, wasn't good either. This was the martial world. They said it was a place where inevitability and chance intertwined to create corpses unexpectedly. Just because you drove away a third-rate sect yesterday didn't mean a major sect wouldn't visit tomorrow. Even the Namgang family, who had locked their gates, might have been playing in the palm of the Blood Flame sect's hand. Everyone would die. It was an old method of evil sects. When they massacre the heirs of hostile Orthodox sects, even the veteran masters would be affected. In the world of masters where the slightest difference matters, it creates an overwhelming psychological gap. Only the sound of water flowing while endlessly absorbing sunlight echoed. Had the river under the pavilion become the river Styx? There were young new generation disciples swallowing their saliva. This is good. Zhong Yunshin circulated his true energy following the predetermined verse. Immediately, Buddhist divine power began to rise throughout his body. As he wrapped his inner power around his right hand, he inwardly hoped. The seventh apostle of the Blood Flame sect had lost an eye to this martial art. He hoped they had brought the nullifying technique. If he could break that nullifying technique once more, there would be something to gain. His was a life that needed to grow stronger rapidly. He had to use any means available. You. One of the blood sword masters stepped forward. He had the most black hair among the group. They said the martial might of sect swordsmen varied greatly. His spirit felt unusual from the start. In a busy city like Huaju, there's nowhere our sect's eyes don't reach. You crawled in even though you must know there's a death warrant on you. The fools of the Orthodox sects knew nothing. You are. Then you must know this too. Zhong Yunshin said. A blue-green energy gathered in his hanging hands. It was a unique martial art that existed nowhere else in the world. The moment demon-destroying blue steel hand appeared over the water that had swallowed the sun, there was energy magnificently spreading from his hands. Wung! It was the clearest energy of anyone present. A sky-blue mist-like wave spread out in all directions. Perhaps because he had accumulated a considerable amount of energy for creating the internal energy technique. Without even swinging his hands, he pushed back the entire group of blood swordmasters as energy. It was completely opposing. For a moment, there was no response. Question lingered on Zhong Yunshin's face. Chapter 51, Dragon Phoenix Gathering, 3. Haiyan Wenchang beside him lightly brushed his eyes with the back of his hand. For a brief moment, Zhong Yunshin thought it was understandable. He saw 20 blood sword masters pulling out identical thunderclap bombs from their bags. It felt utterly unreal. This was how evil sects dealt with enemies who had mastered supreme martial arts. Their attitude was to kill by any means necessary. As if they all applied martial techniques to throwing, after images rose from their hands. Quang! There wasn't even time to shout a warning. He stomped the ground using the fate-defying scripture on his lower body meridians and waist vertebrae points. Even though he avoided a direct hit, his body flew against his will. His ears rang as if struck by a bell technique. It felt like his marrow was being shaken. Thud! His entire body ached. He couldn't move for a moment. Cuck, cuke! While falling and coughing blood, he felt it. Internal damage. There was a strong burning sensation rising from his stomach. Bang! Boom! Roar! The ground rose like waves in all directions. The pristine feeling of the Lotus Pavilion was instantly swept away by dirt and dust. Groans echoing from everywhere added to the horrific scene. Insane! The Blood Flame sect's breaking technique for the demon-destroying Azure Unyielding Palm wasn't martial arts. It was extremely meticulous. T-note demon-destroying blue steel hand has been changed to Azure Unyielding Palm. Both mean the same, however. I changed it to match the context of the technique. They had already realized there was no chance of winning in a direct confrontation. Thunderclap bombs. Since they've been declared an evil sect, they're not concerned about the Imperial Court. It was the same last time. He remembered the explosion that had crushed the Righteous Heaven Sword family's formation. Despite their supposedly large influence, they moved mysteriously while hiding their main base. These were ones who had immediately tracked and followed Zhong Yunxin's movements. The Blood Flame sect's tracking technique was said to be in the realm of sorcery. Knowing the Jiu Gua was lightning flash, they wouldn't be careless. Senior Chong Myong said it many times. He remembered him mentioning the Sichuan Tang sect. They were renowned for poisons and hidden weapons. There were no other explosive bombs in the world that could work at a speed effective against martial artists. They were supreme thunderclap bombs triggered by inner power. Were they imprisoning dwarf craftsmen too? It's too early to be certain they received help from the Tang sect. Regardless of who was behind it, these couldn't be common items. Some martial arts take precedence over group power. Fatal breaking techniques were especially so. Those fellows must have gone to extremes too. Should he be relieved that the Blood Flame sect's apostle hadn't come personally? What about young hero Hyon and Shin Sobin? Zhong Yunxin's eyes moved as he staggered up. He could feel a familiar energy beside him. Through the thick dust, he saw a figure guarding the surroundings. It was Hyon Wenchang. He seemed to have benefited from his extraordinary eye technique. What about Shin Sobin? She said she was going to scout Huangbo Myongrin's side before they came. She must have headed to the pavilion. Hyon Wenchang, who had immediately turned around, replied with sound transmission. His behavior had changed. Words that conveyed only the essentials revealed the gravity of the situation. The Blood Sword Masters who had now closed the distance were using both swords and thunderclap bombs. Their purpose was clear. The massacre of Desolate Sect's Lightning Flash and the Orthodox Sect's Rising Talents. They were rebels using explosive bombs privately. The Imperial Court might raise a massive military force. Those fellows were always taking risks too. They could be called a fanatical sect. Hyon Wenchang, who had approached, flinched at seeing the battered Zhong Yunxin. Can you move? To the pavilion. Zhong Yunxin said briefly. Simultaneously, he ran with Hyon Wenchang while hiding their presence as much as possible. His whole body felt like it was being torn apart. Though the distance wasn't far, time felt extremely long. When they approached while avoiding direct combat, they could see above where the dust was relatively thin. Huangbo Myongrin, who had been escaping with the family's young masters at the pavilion, quietly slipped to the very back. Shin Sobin was right in front of her. The moment Shin Sobin, who had been watching for the Blood Flame sect, was momentarily caught from behind, Huangbo Myongrin quickly struck Shin Sobin's back. It was completely point-blank range. Having already circulated an enormous amount of true chi before striking out, Desolate Sect's youngest white rank member allowed one hit, unable to respond in time. It was a sneak attack from extremely close behind. Shin Sobin's body bounced up like a bow from Huangbo Myongrin's technique that couldn't distinguish front from back. She had been at the back of the line. No one seemed to have seen it. That. Beside the enraged Hyon Wenchang, Zhong Yunxin's eyes sank. Before counting to 5, she'll hit the lake surface. Distance is 7 Zhong. If she falls like that, it'll draw attention. Note 7 Zhong is about 23.33 m. He analyzed the situation in an instant and calculated the lightness technique distance. The true chi already spread throughout his body rushed forth. First were the supporting point below the hip, the deep gate point right below on the back of the thigh, and the bubbling spring point on the sole. He forgot the pain of his meridians that were even slightly bruised. Quack! He stomped the ground with desolate sex lightness technique. It was swift. He ran close to the ground like a rushing gale. In 3 steps he reached the edge of the clearing, and on the 4th step he touched the edge of the lake and leaped. Whack! Shin Sobin of the Shin family. Her young face with tightly closed eyes rapidly enlarged. Though she always showed an all-knowing attitude, she was still a precious daughter of a prestigious family. She seemed to have never experienced a sneak attack like Hwangbo Myongrin's sudden strike. She was conscious. Jong Yunsin immediately felt her breath. The internal injury didn't seem deep either. That's enough. The true chi of the Jong family dynamic technique painfully rushed. It traveled from the latissimus dorsi muscles on his back, through the shoulders, down to the forearms. Note: the latissimus dorsi is a large, flat muscle in the lower back that helps with upper body movement and breathing. His inner power took on the softness of the moon spirit harmony technique. He stretched his left hand to embrace Shin So-bin's waist, and with his right hand grabbed the outer railing of the pavilion, spinning like a leaf. It was an elf clan's body technique that deflected impact. Tack! The small landing felt like an impact. This was the first time he'd been this injured since entering the Murim. Shin So-bin. Footwork. He muttered quietly as soon as they landed inside the pavilion. Regardless of attitude, it was said she followed orders promptly. Energy immediately spread from Shin So-bin's legs as she opened her round eyes wide. Her slim waist was good for using as a weapon. Jong Yunsin swung his junior who was still in his arms. Fiok! A blood flame sect member approaching from the side was struck by her feet and tumbled. As expected, it couldn't have been just blood sword masters. It was a pursuit encirclement. The heaven-spanning net he'd only heard about seemed to be forming from the Namgang family's territory. Was it natural since they weren't concerned about the Imperial Court's reaction? Thank you. Senior. Are you all right? Her long, thin eyebrows rose high. Shin So-bin examined him with an extremely surprised face. Jong Yunsin silently shook his head. Let's go. He rejected her attempt to support him. They needed to leave the Lotus Pavilion quickly. The two who jumped down together landed in the middle of the chaotic battlefield. Hyeon Wonchang hurriedly joined them and whispered. They're coming up from the south. Northwest. Let's go up along the waterside. It could be a trap. Shin So-bin replied. Meanwhile, she was greatly rubbing her waist where Jong Yunsin's arm had touched. Was she trying to lighten the mood in this urgent situation? She stared directly at Jong Yunsin's eyes as if deliberately not avoiding them. She didn't approach too boldly. He almost smiled despite the pain that seemed to split his entire body. We have no choice. Because of the lake, we must choose between 2 options. Jong Yunsin spoke calmly. It was words determining their subsequent actions. Let's go. The blue rank warrior lightning flash's order fell. The 3 immediately began running along the lake shore. It wasn't mindless escape. It was the direction where Hwangbo Myongrin had gone up gathering her brothers and family disciples. The blood flame sect is just a common obstacle. He thought while forcing himself to move. The mission was top priority. His current physical condition wasn't something to worry about. He couldn't lose the Hwangbo family. The explosions that had been echoing from afar had subsided. The thunderclap bombs were no longer exploding. Whether they were saving them or had run out was unknown. He remained alert, unable to lower his guard. Seems they're busy killing other rising talents. Makes me feel guilty. Why should we feel guilty when it's the blood flame sect accumulating sins? After running for a while, they seemed to have gained some breathing room. Both Hyeon Wonchang and Shin So-bin's words made sense. The situation made him newly aware. It was the price the demon-destroying azure unyielding palm had to pay. Now desolate sect's lightning flash must live with the blood flame sect hanging on his back. Anger and guilt intermingled. Blood flame sect. I'll split your skulls every time I see you. Jong Yunsin thought calmly. There they are. Hyeon Wonchang pointed ahead. Jong Yunsin had already noticed. They were rising talents from various martial arts prestigious families including the Huangbo family. There didn't seem to be any injured. With swift lightness techniques, they were already running up the path that reached the mountain range. Escape was natural in this situation. It was said that even among blood sword masters, the exceptional one's martial might reach Desolate Sect's blue level. This was understandable from how the Blood Flame Sect's seventh apostle had matched Ma Jin in martial might. Such meticulous and powerful fellows. There couldn't be a gap in their middle-ranked masters. Oh? Over there. It was a young man who kept glancing back while climbing the mountain path. He pointed at Zhong Yunxin's group disguised as Chasing Truth Sect. The family's rising talents turned and stopped. They waited until Radiant Demon Wing's 3 people climbed nearby. Frost seemed to flash momentarily in Huangbo Myongrin's eyes as she stood in the middle. What's with that appearance? Your condition looks very serious. Anyway, it's good your limbs are intact. Lazy Flame Dragon spread his arms wide. His expression greatly welcomed Zhong Yunxin. It was also burdensome as he was chewing opium poppies that he seemed to carry by the armful. With this level of chaos, the main family will be coming from above and Namgung from below. It won't take long. You're someone to discuss martial arts with me. I'll specially help get you some miraculous medicine. I have that much authority. Even though there are many who gossip about being illegitimate. Brother! Huangbo Myongrin pushed Lazy Flame Dragon. Were they half-siblings? No respect was visible in her attitude. She immediately approached Zhong Yunxin. What should I do? Zhong Yunxin thought while looking at Huangbo Myongrin. If it were a mission where he didn't have to hide his Desolate Sect affiliation, even his current internal injury wouldn't be a problem. Taking the clear righteousness pill received from little divine monk Gak Zhong would solve it. He couldn't bring it. He left it with Chong Myong along with a Desolate Sect sword. Shaylin's internal injury medicine containing Elf Clan secret techniques had a very strong clear fragrance. Any master who had trained their senses even moderately would be able to detect it. He had heard through Desolate Sect's information network. The little divine monk enjoyed praise as much as his visible temperament showed. They said he traveled the martial world speaking about Desolate Sect's prodigies. The whereabouts of the rare clear righteousness pills would inevitably become known too. You mongrel! Huangbo Myongrin glared at Zhong Yunxin. Perhaps due to the thunderclap bomb's aftermath, her face was covered in grime. Her fundamental noble air hadn't disappeared. Her features themselves were quite delicate and pleasant to look at. It would have been even more so if not for her arrogant expression. You! What's your identity? Those sect swordsmen clearly came targeting you. You said chasing truth. What grudge did you bring here? Answer. Do I look amusing to you? After briefly scanning others around, Zhong Yunxin slowly opened his mouth. Are they all family young masters? The rising talents from minor sects must have died or scattered. Don't change the subject. Don't put on airs. I can tell just by your wretched appearance. Your internal injury is clearly visible. Can you still show off your meager martial might now? Huangbo Myongrin said with a sneer. Her hair, having lost its luster, swayed. The angered Haiyan Wenchang and Shin Sobin tried to step forward. Zhong Yunxin shook his head while extending his arm. He stepped forward with his aching foot. He slowly stood face to face with Huangbo Myongrin. Their eyes met at a very close distance, and her beauty-containing malice looked particularly ugly. You tried to use my martial sister as bait. At the Lotus Pavilion. He said. The quiet mountain path began to fill with tension. Chapter 52, Gathering. No one would readily acknowledge it. Especially if they claimed to be an orthodox sect. Huangbo Myongrin sneered again. She didn't even twitch an eyebrow. You say I used your martial sister as bait? You must be seeing things. Or. Her lips curled up. A smile formed without the slightest hesitation. Are you trying to slander me? You rootless mongrel. Isn't it you who lacks roots? It wasn't Zhong Yunxin. His restraining hand was pushed back by Haiyan Wenchang's body. The Desolate Sect divine hero who stepped forward spoke. His appearance, slightly smiling while adjusting the hero's band on his forehead, was like a picture. Your words about mongrels don't seem like those of an educated person. What? You must have received numerous precious medicines since childhood? I hear your Shandong has Lu cuisine. Among them, I know the dumplings wrapped with various ingredients are excellent. Perhaps you wrapped and 8 pages of the 4 books and 3 classics with your medicine. Is that how your family taught Confucian principles? I heard the Huangbo family was noble, but that must have been false. The words flowed like clear water. How dare you lowborn? Huangbo Myongrin's mouth opened slightly for a moment. Haiyan Wanchang looked at her cynically. They said Shandong food was salty. Your words are truly bland. 2 people witnessed your misdeeds, yet you shamelessly deny it? I've never heard of such a poor character as Huangbo Myongrin among Shandong martial arts noble families. Isn't that right? Haiyan Wanchang asked while looking around. Those who met his eyes averted their gaze one by one. A refreshing smile lingered on Haiyan Wanchang's lips. You want to die? Huangbo Myongrin took a step forward with her footwork. The energy gathered in both hands was fierce. In that moment, Zhong Yunxin's hand beside her blurred. With a crack, her body spun in the air. He had struck her cheek with his body refined by the Zhong family dynamic technique, adding his power. Puhak! The moment Huangbo Myongrin fell miserably. The other family's rising talents each took their energy-gathering stances. 8 held swords gleamed with the bright sunlight. If your words are true, this too is proper. However, understand us. There is no neutrality in the Murim under heaven. If we don't know the truth, we can only take the side of those we share friendship with. 2 among the rising talents spoke. A subtle wariness lingered in their tone. Unlike those who had shown goodwill after Zhong Yunxin exchanged greetings with Lazy Flame Dragon. They said even orthodox sects don't share the same nature. The disciples of the 9 sects worship Buddha or the primordial heavenly Lord. As mountain ascetics, they were mostly detached from fame and profit. Martial families were different. It was a term used when powerful families continued for a long time. While advocating righteousness, they pursued profit. Their way of realizing chivalry was completely different. Some wealthy practitioners with powerful martial arts spoke without restraint. They said it's not easy to find true champions of justice outside mountain sects. I heard there were those who enjoyed acts of chivalry. Not some family young masters. They were right before his eyes. Powerful ones had colluded. The group's leadership lay with Huangbo Myongrin. It was that way from the composition. South Chile was in the lower region of Shandong. The Huangbo nobles were said to act as royalty in Jinan, Shandong province. The nearby martial arts family's disciples had to treat them differently. Huangbo Myongrin's side had more value. He deliberately didn't kill her. He judged with blue-level discretion. Lazy Flame Dragon was a young master destined to die. He seemed to be used just to raise the family's reputation. The siblings who had been struck by Zhong Yunxin were the Huangbo family's future. I heard there are spirit beasts too. Zhong Yunxin said. There was a young man who quickly approached to support his sister. He had picked a fight with Zhong Yunxin on Huizhou's main road and was knocked down with one strike. They said he was the Huangbo family's second young master. Even after you did this. I'm speaking. He flinched when quietly observed. The second young master couldn't even meet his gaze and turned his eyes away. I heard noble families have beasts cleverly raised with clan secret techniques. They're called spirit beasts. They say these animals understand human speech and display mysterious abilities. Call your families warriors. As many as possible. Who knows if the Blood Flame sect might send reinforcements? The 8 great families of the Murim were called nobles. They had solid regional foundations and supreme martial arts like royal mansions. It was a world where spirit beasts could be bought with gold. Direct bloodline descendants of the Huangbo family would surely possess at least one messenger bird. Whether carrier pigeons or whatever else didn't matter. Shandong wasn't far from here. They needed to keep sending messages. So that when part of the Huangbo family's military force was empty, desolate sect could secure justification for punishment and immediately advance north. Indeed it was so. The moment he finished speaking, wings moved from inside the second young master's collar. It was a small bird resembling a swallow. The second young master made a small message using a small brush and ink container used during journeys and tied it to the bird's leg. However, he didn't release it. He said, "The moment we send the message, we lose our value. Wouldn't you rush to kill us then? We'll decide when to release it. Think about it." It doesn't end with sending it once. Consider the size of South Jili and Shandong. That bird needs to keep going back and forth. You're right. He silently acknowledged his mistake. He seemed wary of Zhong Yunxin's martial might. Even with internal injuries, he must think Zhong Yunxin could lead them to mutual destruction. In the martial world, it was called dying together. This fellow has become quite cautious. Zhong Yunxin looked up at the departing bird's tail and lowered his head. Huangbo Myongrin, having regained consciousness, was glaring murderously. In contrast, the second young master couldn't raise his head. They could never harmonize. Yet they had to become companions. Whoever brought those blood demons, we need to join forces. Since they seem to have come to kill even the Dragon Phoenix Gathering's rising talent. It was Lazy Flame Dragon. He looked at both sides once before stuffing a winter cherry into his mouth. His eyes, while chewing the flower bud, soon stared blankly at Zhong Yunxin. ****. 20 days had passed. They had shaken off the Blood Flame sect's pursuit several times. It was a heaven-spanning net that started from the south. They couldn't return to Huizhou. Rather, receiving protection from the Huangbo family coming down from Jinan would be quicker. The entire group looked like complete beggars. It was because they had been forced to take mountain paths completely separate from the main road. It was a plain at the end of a very long mountain range. They had drawn closer to Shandong. Now it's a race against time. Zhong Yunxin thought. He had even grown used to hunting birds for food. Even when sleeping, one of the Radiant Demon Wing's 3 people had to stay awake. It was because they couldn't fully trust the rising talents, including the Huangbo siblings. Enough time had passed. The mission was successful. The Huangbo family and Desolate sect would be rushing from both sides. It was a battle between the martial arts noble family ruling Jinan, Shandong, and Desolate sect which governed the entire Central Plains. If the battlefield was Shandong, it wouldn't be strange for either side to arrive first. That would be true for a sudden mission. They'll come simultaneously. They said the Blood Flame sect had difficulty inserting spies due to their techniques. The Huangbo family was different. They must have rushed out ignorantly. Once they crossed north of South Shili, they could never escape Desolate sect's eyes. Desolate sect had been watching them from before. It was a long-planned operation. There was a high possibility that the military force including Radiant Demon Wing was already hiding in the rear while concealing their presence. The family's guard unit is coming, they said. It's over now. By now, Huangbo Myongrin had completely regained her confidence. She spoke openly. The second young master's face beaming with smiles looked delighted. The later period disciples and Huangbo family warriors watching from behind had expressionless faces. Jiyu Gua of Chasing Truth sect. It's about to begin. Are you ready for the family's interrogation? Huangbo Myongrin, who seemed to even feel pleasure, was the same. She even wore a playful smile. Zhong Yunxin didn't answer. Just as he was about to draw out a newly comprehended sword technique, his sword-carrying step suddenly stopped. Whoosh! Bang! Someone landed behind Zhong Yunxin. An enormous vibration echoed. They seemed to have jumped from the hill behind. The feeling of the ground shaking was incomparable to the thunderclap bombs. He knew without looking back. The overwhelmingly rising energy wave was very familiar. Squad leader? It was Shin Sobin's cry. Zhong Yunxin's maternal uncle. Ma Jin, the leader of Radiant Demon Wing, had descended. Bang! Bang! 2 energy waves of similar size struck down like meteors. They seemed to be on either side of Ma Jin. The thick rising dust reached the front. It was energy resembling the ancient heavens and spirit that felt both eerie and profound. This too wasn't unfamiliar. The heads of Azure Sky Squad and Annihilation Team. The Azure Sky Squad leader had given spirit pills when Zhong Yunxin first entered, and the Annihilation Team leader had overseen his blue rank promotion examination. There were more. They were ones who had always eaten and slept together after his entry. Whoosh! The reverse wind from the lightness techniques of Radiant Demon Wing's blue-ranked masters swept everywhere. Perhaps around 20 people. He could feel them stopping behind the leaders with their highly trained body protection movement. It wasn't the end. Similar-sized groups descended and spread left and right immediately. Their energy waves were equal to Radiant Demon Wings. They must be Desolate Sect's Azure Sky Squad and Annihilation. They were the 17 Divine Sword Squad supporting the civilians under heaven. They said 2 or more gathering together were invincible. Lightning flash! Weiss! Along with Chong Myong's shout, a long object rushed toward the back of his head. Zhong Yunshin, slightly twisting his body, caught it at once. The cool sensation wrapping around his palm was extraordinary. It was the Desolate Sect sword. He immediately placed it at his waist along with the Northern Light sword. Another one flew in. The white pill caught in Zhong Yunshin's hand spread a fragrant scent. Chong Myong seemed to have seen through his internal injury. It was Shaylin's clear righteousness pill. This was the end. The lightning flashes supplies were complete. Thud! Desolate Sect's Divine Sword Squad. Zhong Yunshin trembled at the festival of energy waves rising like wildfire. Could there be a more powerful force in the world? At this moment, he felt as if an invisible force was supporting his right hand drawing the sword. Simultaneously, Hyon Wan-Chang approached. His footsteps were light as if about to fly. He grabbed and tore down the cloth covering beside Zhong Yunshin's shoulder with one hand. Rip! The character Huang was revealed. It was golden text meaning the direct disciple of Desolate Sect's Lord. Someone unknown swallowed empty breath. Tyrant Sword Huangbo Jun. Zhong Yunshin calmly opened his mouth. As he slowly rolled the clear righteousness pill in his left hand with his fingers, a silence as if time had frozen suddenly surrounded the plane. You may begin, he said, holding down his sword. Chapter 53, The Huangbo Family. The expressionless faces of the Rising Talents and Huangbo Family Guard unit instantly vanished. Dozens of faces changed one after another. Desolate Sect? Why Desolate Sect? What energy wave? Desolate Sect's blue ranks? Isn't that Radiant Demon Wing? Isn't it said that they are comparable to a minor sect? With that energy wave and black martial clothes, aren't those Desolate Sect's squad leaders? How are there 3 of them? Those from family sects who claimed they could discuss matters of the world couldn't hide their inner thoughts. Even domineering sword Huangbo Jun * hesitated. There was raw bewilderment showing. They all seemed to harbor questions and shock. T's note, I translated domineering sword as tyrant sword in previous chapter. I changed it to avoid confusion with the tyrant sword sect, one of evil sects. At that age, Desolate Sect blue rank. I've heard of it. Huangbo Myongrin's lower lip trembled. Her continuing voice did too. Lightning Flash. You, Jiu Gua, you were Desolate Sect's Lightning Flash. It's not a name that should have spread to Shandong. Isn't that quite far? Zhong Yunshin answered, slightly puzzled. He seemed to have heard of people like Huangbo Myongrin. Those who collect rumors with interest, even about martial artists who don't influence the major currents of the martial world. The well-known places were said to be Beggar Sect and Hao Sect. Desolate Sect was a place watched by the entire martial world. She seemed to have encountered the title of Lightning Flash while looking into emerging masters. Why? We would have treated you better than anyone. Huangbo Myongrin's question was rather perplexing. Zhong Yunshin conveyed what he had heard. Better treatment is a laughable story. Everyone knows the martial world treats Desolate Sect coldly. What was the reason for hiding your identity? I'm a Desolate Sect warrior. What other reason could there be besides the mission? Mission. The domineering sword cut in. The appearance of the middle-aged swordsman who had been emanating overwhelming presence disappeared. On his gravely sunken face, his eyes, repeatedly scanning Desolate Sect's masters, shook anxiously. That's when it happened. I failed to recognize the Imperial clan. One of the Rising Talents abruptly knelt. The dully echoing sound was unusual. Those nearby tried to stop him with bewildered faces. Young hero Cheon, what are you doing? What Imperial clan? If he's the direct disciple of Desolate Sect's lord, isn't he of the Imperial clan? I heard it's been that way for generations. Looking at this, he's not even from a noble family. How could Desolate Sect's lord pass down martial arts to a commoner? It was an amusing commotion. Zhong Yunshin didn't answer and turned his head. His eyes met with Ma Jin, who had somehow approached his side. The scar across his face seemed to contain concern. It appeared to be because Zhong Yunshin's appearance was that bad. Bad enough to know at a glance even without being from a noble family. Even I hadn't anticipated multiple thunderclap bombs. Is your internal injury all right? Ma Jin asked, slightly distorting his lips. Zhong Yunshin readily nodded and spoke. You came after understanding the situation in Huiju. By chance, do you know what happened to Yu Haiyan of the manhua sect? You mean the youngest disciple of manhua's sect leader? The Namgang family responded immediately to protect him. That young Taoist Yu Haiyan, I know he's already destroyed a couple of Blood Flame sect branches along with the Plum Blossom Sword Masters. The manhua sect left Huiju long ago. I see. He had been concerned about their indefinite separation in the chaos. While greatly relieved, Zhong Yunshin was inwardly surprised. Even though Yu Haiyan was one of his few close friends, they hadn't shared friendship for long. He felt there was more affection than expected. Perhaps because he approached warmly saying he'd come to Desolate Sect. Come to think of it, he could count his close peers on one hand. Crown Prince Ju Yu Myong wasn't yet among them. Perhaps only Yu Haiyan, Shin Sobin, and Ma Sein of the Desolate Sect Ma family. Sword Dragon Wei Ji Maiwa of the Zhongnan sect was considered a sister somewhere between them and Bekem Ryo. It was like making one friend each time he went on a mission. Thinking about it now, it wasn't too bad. Even if he died without eating the World Tree fruit, there would be people who would remember him. Not something I particularly want to think about. That's when domineering sword Huangbo Jun stepped forward. Hearing the conversation, you're not of the Imperial clan. You B***st* road, no. His words, ignored by Zhong Yunshin and Ma Jin, were briefly cut off. It seemed like the first humiliation in his life. He took a long exhale and composed himself. Young hero. And great hero Ma. He raised a formal cupped fist salute. His attitude had completely changed. If it were just Radiant Demon Wing, a family of the 8 great families wouldn't have bowed like this. He seemed to have guessed something after seeing the gathering of 3 Divine Sword Group military forces. Cold sweat was visible on his nape. I've long heard the great name of Radiant Demon Wing. This Huangbo Jun failed to recognize the direct disciple taken in by Desolate Sect's lord and spoke false words. I hope you can forgive me. What false words? Ma Jin asked briefly. For a moment, there was no answer. Mongrel, low-born, one without roots. Shin Sobin, who quickly cut in, chirped. She seemed very excited. Aren't these all insults to the squad leader? I know Senior Lightning Flash is also of Desolate Sect Ma family bloodline. He became famous during the main family's coming-of-age ceremony, right? This is the martial world. They say he downed the Thunder Spirit treasure wine in one go while declaring that. Ma Jin's face froze coldly. The aura rising like frost from his scar was extremely cold. By now, those who should know were aware that the Lightning Flash was Desolate Sect Ma family's reverse scale. They said Ma Jin, unlike his appearance, was a warm person full of affection. He wouldn't forgive anyone who spoke of bloodlines. Huangbo family. Ma Jin opened his mouth with an expressionless face. The crime of a mere noble family forcing citizens into labor is heavy. The number reached 1,000. You asked about the Lightning Flash's mission. It was to create rifts between the Huangbo nobles who rule Jinan with force. He made it possible to secure justification for extermination. He completed it excellently. Aren't you all here? What? Huangbo Jun swallowed hard. It was words from a squad leader under Desolate Sect's Divine Sword Squad. No one would consider it false words. However, admitting the crime was another matter. Even if decisive evidence had been taken, they had to deny it. Whether people or documents, it was so. Unless one was naive, they wouldn't admit it in this situation. Even Zhong Yunshin, with his shallow martial world experience, could understand. He turned around. He gave a cupped fist salute while taking in Ma Jin, Annihilation Team leader, and Azure Sky Squad leader at a glance. I dare to ask. May this junior announce the start? It was the Annihilation Team leader, so skinny that his black robe's wide cut stood out. To combine 3 military forces, the chain of command needed to be unified. He heard the Annihilation Team leader temporarily held command authority. They said it was because of his age near 50 and long years as squad leader. Ma Jin and Azure Sky Squad leader were in their 30s. They said that was quite young for squad leaders. Radiant Demon Wing's Lightning Flash. I watched your rank promotion test from the side. It was quite impressive. The eyes of an internal energy master who had reached the extreme carefully observed him. The moment Zhong Yunshin met the pitch-black gleaming spirit light, he couldn't help but feel tense. Unlike Desolate Sect's lord who completely contained his energy, he could fully sense the martial might. Still far to go. Squad leaders are completely different. It was when he was realizing the realm of Desolate Sect's black rank. The Annihilation team leader slowly opened his mouth. Announcing the start, that was your mission. I permit it. Thank you. Zhong Yunshin, maintaining his cupped fist salute, slightly bent his waist before lowering his arms. Step. He turned around again and stepped forward alone. He put the clear righteousness pill he held in his left hand into his mouth. Like lazy flame dragon who enjoyed chewing opium poppies, he roughly chewed while continuing to walk without stopping. He headed straight for where the rising talents and Huangbo family warriors were gathered. They said there's no need to circulate qi. Indeed. They said it combined noble family secret techniques and Shaolin Medicine King Hall's medical techniques. There was a feeling of refreshing energy rising from all his body's meridians. Mysterious efficacy spread throughout his body, healing his internal injuries. Until then, no one had dared to act rashly. The three military forces of Desolate Sect exerted terrifying suppressive power. He passed by the domineering sword. He ignored lazy flame dragon too. Originally, Zhong Yunshin had intended to take the neck of the domineering sword, the strongest among the enemies. Huangbo Rin was next. However, after facing the Annihilation team leader's intense spirit on the battlefield, his thoughts changed. He was a blue-ranked warrior under the black-ranked squad leader. Exchange swords with the domineering sword for dozens of moves. It was merely reckless bravado blinded by merit. With the squad leader's martial might, they could kill someone like the domineering sword in a few moves. In a position aiming for the Divine Sword squad leadership, he couldn't risk falling out of favor with the Azure Sky and Annihilation team leaders. Now I'm incorporated into the mission to strike the Huangbo family. It's enough to make myself remembered. Zhong Yunshin approached 3 steps in front of Huangbo Rin. He had come so deep inside that it would be hard for anyone to imagine him acting alone recklessly. He slowly opened his mouth. Let's settle our grudge. What did you say? You may reply comfortably. I will say my piece. You told me to offer my arm. You said you behead me after interrogation. The Dragon Phoenix gathering too. Shin Sobin could have died. That would have happened if I hadn't saved her? I acknowledge the prestige of Desolate Sect's blue-ranked warrior. Furthermore, as the direct disciple of Desolate Sect's lord, you can be this arrogant. Huangbo Rin straightened her waist. Grace began to show in her wretched appearance from the long escape. However, I cannot make up non-existent words. I am upright. I never did anything against the righteous path. You keep doing that. It doesn't matter now. The remaining mission is the extinction of the Huangbo family. Whatever boasts you make are meaningless. Zhong Yunshin put strength into his hand holding the Desolate Sect sword's hilt. In that moment, the energy wave bursting from the back of his hand spread in all directions. The precursor to sword technique manifestation. In the middle of enemy territory. Before Huangbo Rin, her face full of shock, could reply, tendons rose on the back of Zhong Yunshin's hand. Huangbo Rin was a vastly inferior opponent. It showed from her expression in that instant. The terror of a martial artist facing an insurmountable sword technique rose up. What? Please? Simultaneously, the Desolate Sect sword flashed. The swift sword technique radiant sword style. The blade distorted like a beam of light at a speed impossible to react to. Swoosh! A white lightning struck and passed through her neck. It was swift swordsmanship that had reached the blue rank realm. Huangbo Rin's head stayed in place momentarily. Even the panic fixed in her eyes hadn't faded. The blood burst a breath later. Splash! As her head rolled down limply, her corpse collapsed. The terrified domineering sword was rushing in from behind, but Desolate Sect's masters were much faster. With ghost-like body technique, the Annihilation team leader arrived first and grabbed the domineering sword's back of head, slamming it to the ground. Bang! The inner power concentrated in his thin arm was tremendous. The ground cracked and split. Rina! Young lady! Family head! The second son and Huangbo family guard unit cried out. The rising talent seemed frozen. The faces that were indifferent when discussing Zhong Yunshin's arm and neck now showed unprecedented animation. It was desperation and terror. Thud! Ma Jin and the Azure Sky Squad leader leaped into their group. The two Supreme Masters radiated heavy energy waves in all directions and drew their blades like a painting. They didn't even give warnings. Destructive energy stormed from their blade and sword strikes that began cutting down everything in their path. The domineering sword, who had hurriedly rolled away, barely escaped the Annihilation Team leader's grasp. It was the moment he rose to his feet, seemingly about to display Huangbo family sword technique. Boom! Along with rough footwork, Ma Jin's form tore through the air. He rushed in with truly explosive speed. In that instant, the pitch-black blade he held pierced straight through the center of the domineering sword's chest. Crack! Crunch! The penetration was brief. Ma Jin twisted his waist and horizontally severed the domineering sword's upper body. Along with the sound of ribs splitting at once, a large amount of blood spurted up. The tremendous impact became spirit itself and stopped time. Desolate sect. It was true. We can't fight them. We must think of escape. Desolate sect's radiant demon wing leader. The domineering sword died truly meaninglessly. Ma Jin didn't seem to give it much significance. He immediately charged toward the Huangbo family warriors again. His blade work cut off 5 more throats in an instant. The black blade shadow that swept like a storm left tremendous air-splitting force as it cut necks, hearts, and waists. Organs and blood poured out between ruptured muscles. It was terrifying. The term demonic blade truly suited it. This was Radiant Demon Wing Leader's attitude toward enemies who had threatened his only nephew. Thud! Even the remaining dust from his leap was torn to shreds. Suffocating killing intent spurting from his entire body constricted all directions, and it converged into overwhelming force waves upon reaching his blade. Flee! Run away! Eventually some began turning their backs. It was momentum that seemed to completely dismantle even the spirit of martial arts family warriors. The 3 squad leaders chased and killed them. They burst their backs with palm techniques and cut off their necks. It was a scene revealing the fundamental difference from martial world practitioners. They viewed martial artists who disturbed the people's livelihoods strictly from the imperial perspective. Rogues who didn't even properly pay tribute. Desolate sect's execution of the country's harmful elements was merciless. The squad leaders don't give any openings. Unless it's quite a large scale. We'll only earn merit when striking the Huangbo family's main house. I envy the lightning flash. Hasn't he already done quite a big deed? Among the members of Radiant Demon Wing, Azure Sky, and Annihilation Team, very few joined the squad leaders. The majority approached without even participating in battle. Some captured and interrogated the rising talents. Please arrest me. I am that heinously evil young master of the Huangbo family. That won't do. Please return the opium poppies, eh? Please? Lazy Flame Dragon was among them. Chapter 54, The Huangbo Family, 2. Zhong Yunqin looked up after gazing down at Huangbo Myongrin's corpse. This one isn't even resisting. Chong Myong said. He shrugged and kicked Lazy Flame Dragon's back of the knee. Lazy Flame Dragon, who fell to his knees with a thud, looked up at Zhong Yunqin with a grin. Things have gone wrong. If you came knowing everything, it's extermination. A blue-ranked warrior? I couldn't even imagine your true identity. From their first meeting, he who chewed opium poppies while drunk was indeed not in his right mind. He seemed largely unconcerned even though his half-sister's head had been severed. Whether it was due to the contempt he suffered as an illegitimate son who became a young master, or simply because he was mad, was unclear. Solar Divine Meridian. Was the pain said to shake the meridians beyond imagination? Even at first sight, Lazy Flame Dragon was truly insane. He seemed to have lived merely by inertia even as the Huangbo family's young master. What was that sword technique? It was a sword strike I've never seen before. What internal energy technique did you learn? Tell me. Your sister just died by my sword moments ago. Those dull ones are none of my concern. They lived in a different world. They probably didn't even think of me as a sibling. I'm the same. With the family about to fall, there's no need to mind the elders' feelings. Gu Gua, no, lightning flash. I want to know all your martial arts. Lazy Flame Dragon created a smile with shadowed eyes. Now it was certain. He had gone completely mad from martial arts and pain. Zhong Yunshin ignored his words while stroking the hilts of the Desolate Sword and Northern Light Sword in turn. The Huangbo family guard unit was just the preliminary battle. The expedition had just begun. It was a mission to strike one of the 8 great families. They said extermination wouldn't be achieved through short-term decisive battle. The Huangbo family is a massive local prestigious clan. They said it wasn't just one main house in Jinan, Shandong province. They said they could secretly exploit the people while ruling Jinan like royalty because they had branch families and branch offices. They couldn't be judged by one guard unit. They said it was an organization equipped with an elder council and elite masters. He heard all the 8 great families and 9 sects were like that. They were strong enemies equipped with various martial arts. Enough to please Zhong Yunshin. A sword technique to deflect thunderclap bombs, an internal energy technique for quick energy accumulation, sword techniques effective in one against many. The sword techniques had already established their system as martial arts. Only combat adaptation remained. In the midst of chaos, Zhong Yunshin slightly closed his eyes. He hoped he could complete both the sword technique to counter thunderclap bombs and the new internal energy technique in one mission. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Your efforts were great. Thanks to you, we can accomplish a long-standing mission. The senior masters ruffled the heads of Zhong Yunshin, Haiyan Wenchang, and Shin Sobin. While Shin Sobin made a face of disgust, Zhong Yunshin asked Chong Myong and Baek Emi about what had happened. This was after Baek Emi had already grabbed both his shoulders once to check his injuries. For us, well, we were just terrified when we heard about the Dragon Phoenix gathering incident. Who knew they would use thunderclap bombs like that? We really ran here with lightness techniques until our feet sweated. At the blue rank, one should be able to handle explosive bombs. I'll teach you how to utilize the Radiant Demon technique. Chong Myong and Baek Emi said. Even if Desolate Sect had no master-disciple bonds, human relationships were different. Zhong Yunshin felt Radiant Demon Wing as a complete sect. Starting with Chong Myong's grinning face. The same was true for Baek Emi, who looked at him after demonstrating a palm technique that gently drew circles in the air. This is the Harmony Realm technique. From the very character, it's different from the Force Realm technique that releases true energy forcefully. You've heard the saying softness can control hardness? If you surround your sword or fist palm with an internal energy barrier, you can even send back explosive bombs. I'll show you many times, so feel free to ask until you master it. I thought of that. Oh. I'm curious about several application uses, but I think I understand those too, so I'd like you to check them. Meanwhile, the surroundings were noisy. The dantians of those who surrendered without dying among the Huangbo family guard unit members were being destroyed. The dantian was an organ that affected the entire body's meridians and channels. It couldn't end with just dispersing internal energy. Ku, Kuk, Hiook. Many were rolling on the ground, but no one paid attention. They were ones who surrendered without fighting alongside their comrades to the death. The gazes upon them couldn't be kind. Several, including Chong Myong and Baek Emi, were excluded from the menial tasks. They said it was because they had been scouts. The same was true for Zhong Yunshin, Haiyan Wenchang, and Shin Sobin. Their martial world activities from the Dragon Phoenix gathering until now were officially recognized as merit. Not just anyone can destroy the dantian. A blue-ranked master with deep internal cultivation must do it. It's quite a troublesome task. Since they're prisoners once captured, we can't kill them. During battle it's at our discretion, but afterward we hand them over to the government office. We follow the imperial court's judgment. Chong Myong said. Zhong Yunshin and Haiyan Wenchang slowly nodded. Desolate Sect was a sect with clear hierarchical order. The white-ranked warriors who arrived late took charge of handling the surviving enemies. Even post-battle tasks weren't easy, like gathering corpses, checking identification tags for identity confirmation, and temporary burial. Meanwhile, rising talents from other families gathered together with sealed lips. Their eyes, glancing at Radiant Demon Wing including Zhong Yunshin, held no spirit light. Their faces were like domineering sword Huangbo Jun who ultimately died by Radiant Demon Wing leader's hand. Their complexions weren't good. I'm newly envious. It feels like yesterday we took the Desolate Sect examination together, but now Sir Zhong is my superior. Haiyan Wenchang shook his head while looking at the corpses. If he hadn't completed missions earlier, he might have had to handle this. Zhong Yunshin stared at him blankly before speaking. May I say something as a blue rank? This tearing. Sir Hyon doesn't need to do it for me. I've been quiet thinking you might feel awkward, but it's rather embarrassing. I'll do it myself. Zhong Yunshin said while patting below his shoulder. It was where the character Huang was engraved. Simultaneously, Hyon Wenchang's face noticeably deflated. When it's one of my few life's pleasures, then must you take everything? What? They were given leisure to chat. It was a rarely enjoyable time. Around when the dry plain entering spring was heated by the noon sun, handling Lazy Flame Dragon and the second young master became an issue. I believe killing them is right. Chong Myong said with a slight smile. Perhaps because he was from an elf clan said to be dignified anywhere in the Central Plains. He showed not the slightest hesitation even before 3 squad leaders. Zhong Yunshin thought it was like him. Won't they be future trouble? Since they've seen the martial arts of 3 desolate sect military forces in their eyes, if we carelessly take them prisoner and they escape, it could become a headache. Counter techniques might even emerge. There's a point. The swordsman with a grave expression nodded. It was the Azure Sky Squad leader. He was said to have been born destined to become a sword master thanks to his tall height and long arms. That's when it happened. Radiant Demon Wing. Lazy Flame Dragon raised his head and shouted. His glistening eyes stared only at Zhong Yunshin on one side. I want to join Radiant Demon Wing. I'll serve with all my might. I'll grovel like a dog, just let me stay by the lightning flash's side. What nonsense. Hyon Wenchang muttered as if dumbfounded. There was no way it would be accepted. Whether he was illegitimate or whatever, he was still blood of a family about to be exterminated. The Ming Imperial Court never left future troubles. Desolate Sect was the same. A sect transcending orthodox and evil sects. They only cared about the people's livelihood. You are a prisoner. In that moment, powerful formless energy burst from the Annihilation Team leader's index finger. Lazy Flame Dragon's upper body shook as if hit by a typhoon. Finger wind. It was a technique that locally expelled palm wind through true energy. 7 steps life-losing acupoint sealing. It's the Annihilation Team leader's unique martial art. Hyon Wenchang beside him whispered. Zhong Yunshin was always amazed by his martial world knowledge. He had no way of knowing how he knew martial arts he'd never seen. The Annihilation Team leader spoke. Solar Divine Meridian. I know your true energy is like having learned the Scorching Yang Divine technique. My original true energy carries wood energy like elf clans. You must have heard the principle of wood generating fire. Your inner power isn't as refined as the true energy that just entered. So you're saying if I raise my energy, it will only strengthen your true energy, so don't try to unseal carelessly. I've well heard of the esteemed Annihilation Team leader's 7 steps life-losing pressure point sealing. If one acts rashly, the entire body's channels twist and one dies before taking 7 steps. In my case, I'd burn to death. Lazy Flame Dragon replied with a grin. Wood generating fire was the 5 elements principle that wood energy strongly nurtures fire. If he could control the solar divine meridian's energy, it would have rather become nourishment. It wasn't so. Because he couldn't control the scorching yang power, he had a constitution destined for early death, and if wood energy further strengthened this uncontrollable power, it would only be fatal. You know well. Now be quiet. Your opinion is useless. Ha ha, well. When Lazy Flame Dragon, who had briefly lowered his head, raised his neck straight again, the bloodshot whites filling his eyes didn't look human. You turtle like B*ST** road. Burn to death? Die by burning? I'm really sick of heat. Now you're just some damn person. Like the solar divine meridian. It's just a minor meridian, you skeleton B*ST** road. Simultaneously, Zhong Yunshin moved unexpectedly and struck the back of his head. The momentary sensation of abundant hair touching his instep felt unpleasant. He pushed with footwork carrying true energy. Thud! He looked down at him who had fainted with his forehead hitting the ground. He thought it was better than instant death from the squad leader's technique. Why aren't you destroying this one's Dantian? He asked, looking around at the 3 squad leaders. It wasn't what he hoped for. He was just curious. Ma Jin, his body soaked in blood, placed his hand on Zhong Yunshin's shoulder. Actually, the treatment of that lazy flame dragon has been decided. The sect lord commanded it. She said to bring him alive if he's living. She said keeping his inner power intact is important. It's the solar divine meridian that's said to be rare in the world. Perhaps she has something to study martially. In that moment, Zhong Yunshin felt a strange intuition. Was it upper Dantian precognition? He had an intuition that the desolate sect lord's order was related to him. Then it must be good. He thought unconsciously. While she was strict about the world tree fruit, she was clearly wrapping Zhong Yunshin in goodwill. There was no reason for the peerless master said to be closest to world's strongest to treat Zhong Yunshin with pretense. Swish! While he was lost in thought, the second young master's head fell. The Azure Sky Squad leader had cut down him who was kneeling in terror. We can't let more than one direct line survive, the Annihilation Team leader said. He was the one who had first met and picked a fight with Zhong Yunshin near Huaju. It was strange to see the head of that so dignified and arrogant young master lying with eyes wide open. Do most martial artists' lives end so futilely in the end? The martial world was a world of survival of the fittest. If the one encountered was stronger, one had to helplessly offer their neck. To correct the disorder of people's lives, rather following the martial world's ways. Zhong Yunshin newly realized Desolate Sect's paradoxical role. While thinking it was unavoidable, he hoped there wouldn't be missions that conflicted with his heart. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Time passed in place. It was around when clouds caught in sunlight moved to the distance. The moment white-ranked warriors finished cleaning up the battlefield, the Annihilation Team leader gathered Radiant Demon Wing and the Azure Sky Squad and Annihilation Team forces. The atmosphere was free-spirited. Zhong Yunshin sat down heavily with Haiyan Wenchang and looked at the Annihilation Team leader. We'll repel the branch families first. The Annihilation Team leader quietly continued speaking. A martial arts family's power isn't all martial might. Martial world connections are also powerful. We must preemptively annihilate their contacts who could bring in other sects. The main force will enter the Huangbo main house after that. Wouldn't blocking Jinan be enough? How will we organize the personnel? Ma Jin asked. He seemed to treat the Annihilation Team leader as a senior. There are 9 Huangbo branch families where the family's martial arts have branched. 1 in each county of Jinan. The branch family's martial might has already been investigated. We'll exclude white ranks. We'll distribute the blue ranks. Understood. Meanwhile, Zhong Yunshin observed the faces of other Desolate Sect masters including the Annihilation Team leader. What he was about to do now was something that required reading the room. It could likely be seen as an attempt to monopolize merit. Though that's actually true. Only Radiant Demon Wing saw him in a purely positive light. Still, it had to be done. The Central Plains were terribly vast. Many missions required watching dozens of sunsets. He needed to accumulate as much merit as possible. He planned to immediately overturn any reputation damage from this moment with martial arts. In the hall where the Great Master's heavy spirit seemed to press down even on the blue ranks. I wish to volunteer for a solo mission. Zhong Yunshin, who finally raised his hand, spoke calmly. The surroundings instantly went quiet. Even Desolate Sect's masters were human. They said there were those who privately sought merit. However, Lightning Flash Zhong Yunshin was a young master who had just become blue-ranked. It could easily be seen as reckless behavior. The Annihilation Team leader stared at him and asked back. You want a solo mission? It's to hone the wide-area martial art I recently acquired in actual combat. I will certainly succeed in the mission. I promise to give up if I cannot gain the recognition of the seniors here. You. True energy carried in the Annihilation Team leader's voice. This mission is crucial. We're dealing with one of the 8 great families. Do you know why I'm even listening to your words now? It's because you've risen to blue rank. That's all. The waves flowing from his voice felt almost visible, and even the stone fragments rolling across the plain began to bounce slightly as if reacting to his internal energy. Yet the hem of the Annihilation Team leader's black robe didn't move at all. It was power control that had reached divine skill. Lightning Flash. I thought well of you. It's a world where martial artists who can add wit to prodigious talent are rare. I saw the capacity of a squad leader in you, yet you disappoint me like this. Even Ma Jin dared not interrupt at this moment. He only made an expression as if asking why he hadn't given advance notice. Zhong Yunshin was rather fine with it. The Annihilation Team leader had mentioned blue rank. It was a sign of respect. There was a chance to prove himself. It was different from when he contemplated facing the domineering sword. He could immediately prove his ability to handle multiple enemies. It was the martial art that had led to his ill-fated encounter with the Huangbo siblings on Huizhou's main road. I apologize. As he stood up and made a cupped fist salute, the masters formed a circular space. Their expressions varied. Concern, interest, and displeasure seemed to fill his vision together. It'll be fine, he repeated inwardly to reassure himself. They said there were no masters above blue rank who weren't obsessed with martial arts. He didn't hope for amazement. He hadn't heard of anyone creating sound techniques with a sword. Perhaps they would acknowledge it with one demonstration. Zhong Yunqin slowly gripped the sword hilt. Not the desolate sword but the Northern Light sword. Its material was excellent and suitable for sound techniques. Swish! It was a plane entering noon. Dry radiance gathered on the drawn sword. It was the moment of demonstrating his new unique martial art before the masters of Desolate Sect's 3 military forces. Please protect your ears with internal energy. Zhong Yunqin spoke respectfully and raised his inner power following the sword technique's chant. He split the rising true energy in two. It was the Lesser Palace Point and Labor Palace Point among the 3 meridian points gathered in the center of his palm. He applied power simultaneously. A chilling light brushed the Northern Light sword. Whoosh! It was the moment when a wave like a bird's cry spread inside the long blade. About 10 white-ranked warriors around fainted and collapsed in all directions.